copy. I would like to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance. It is and will.
Yeah, I'm live on YouTube. You guys should leave a like.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option.
Yeah, what is he talking about? I'm just lost.
On the manifesto,
Hello?
that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, I'm not going to listen.
Hello?
The fact of the matter is,
Hello?
I beat Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
What?
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing everybody.
Hey, baby.
2 days earlier, you would have lost every prize.
He knows how to do it.
Tuesday.
That was not me. I was fucking Fox
I
playing
got very lucky.
Annoying.
No. You shit yourself.
Yo, what's going on, Swerve? Welcome to the stream.
The fact is that everything he says is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you picked
Be surprised.
the
Go
wrong
ahead.
guy, the wrong night at the
Did you
wrong
hear
time.
that?
Listen, you
Yeah.
agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized, they
doing?
call it
Mr.
do you
Medicare for
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President,
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people. There are 20 million people that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three,
health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to
fuck am I
do
listening
that.
to?
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Bye.
gentlemen, you realize if you're both
Joe.
speaking
What
at the
did you
same
say?
time,
And it's
Oh,
too
no, somebody's
let
talking.
the president's
No
go ahead,
one's
sir.
talking.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a
He's a
choice to
little
make
kid.
very early on. We took
What?
away the
What are you
individual
talking about?
mandate.
He's
We
a little kid,
guaranteed
Sam.
pre-existing conditions,
Never
but
mind.
took away the
I
individual
didn't hear
mandate.
that. The fuck? You got a
Listen,
ghost
this
in
is
your
the way it
room or
is.
something?
And that destroyed.
Oh, wait.
They shouldn't even call it Obamacare.
Somebody was in my
Then I had a
Fortnite
choice to make.
game.
Do I let my people run it really well
Hello?
or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame
No,
me. But
you
more
little
importantly, I
shit,
wanna help
leave.
people. Okay? I said you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting
Talk
with
to
them.
me.
They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare,
Who
it's a
is this?
disaster. It's too expensive.
I got it.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
It's okay.
That's what
So
his people
we
said.
do
No,
want to
no,
get
no,
rid of it.
but it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
get
it, sir, but
something
I have
that's
to
cheaper.
give you
Let
roughly
me
equal
do them.
time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
What's your guys' thoughts on the debate so far?
Wishful thinking.
Trump's winning this
He has
shit.
executive orders.
You got any money on that?
He hasn't
Biden
lowered
can't
drug
even
costs for
fucking form a
anybody. He's been
sentence.
promising
Yeah, he can't even
plan
talk.
since
I
the
don't really
That
know
was
what
fucked
he's
up.
doing.
like almost everything.
Yeah, watch him be retarded. You guys making fun of an ill person.
He doesn't have a
Oh
plan.
my god.
All right,
I
shut up,
should
shut up,
give
shut up,
it
shut up.
to
What are
him.
you talking about?
All right,
He's
I have
against.
one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally.
Yeah, they go cute as hell. I see what you mean, passive.
Shut up. Go ahead and confirm Justice
Fucking
Barrett. There has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak.
Word.
You should go out and vote.
Mm.
You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now. Whether you, in fact, I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the question
you wanna
is
put a lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
He's a
Will you
fucking
shut up?
gobble.
Fucking button.
This is so-
I think
this is so
He's gonna pack the
unprecedented.
I love
We have
Trump.
then-
God.
we have then-
Please shut up, man.
Move on to the second segment.
Productive segment, wasn't it?
Oh man.
Keep yapping, man.
The people understand.
Fucking keep me out.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID.
It was fucking hilarious.
Serious subject, so let's try to be serious
talking about
it.
COVID.
We have had more than 7 million cases of
Hmm.
coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent
Because Trump
to
2020.
deal with this
Shut the fuck up.
public
Biden
health crisis
2020.
going forward? In
No,
this
hell
case,
no. Shut up.
the question
Don't
goes
even.
to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths.
Okay.
40,000 people a day are
Okay.
contracting COVID.
Okay.
He did it math. He did our homework. Fuck it up.
750 and
He didn't
1,000 people
stutter.
a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, "It is what it is. It is what it is because you are who you are.
Okay.
That's why it is." The
Okay.
president
Yo, shut up, shut up.
No,
This is my nigga right here.
he hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In
Oh.
addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was.
Yeah.
He did not even ask Xi to do that.
Okay.
He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us.
Biden.
What did he do then?
Okay.
He then did nothing. He waited.
He's
and waited
stuttering
and
like a
waited.
mug.
He doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2 minutes.
March exactly what we should be doing, and I laid out again. In
Yo,
July.
swerve. I'm also Team Biden. Let's get it.
We should
Fuck
be
Trump.
providing all the protective gear possible. We should be
Hey,
providing the money the
Team
House
Trump.
has passed
Fuck
in
Biden.
order to be able to go
It's
out
2v1. Me and Swerve on.
people the
Alright.
help they need to keep
no,
their
it's,
businesses open.
Yeah.
Open schools.
Oh, that's crazy, Kels.
Red
Get out of
team.
your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in
What the fuck is he
I don't even know. What are you talking about?
What needs to be done now to save
Get out of the golf course.
If we would have listened
Wait,
to
wait. You
you,
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open.
Yeah.
Millions of people would have died, not
Mm.
200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never
Yep.
happened. They stopped it from going
Yo,
in.
get
It was
Trump lips.
China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's
You dumb
xenophobic
bitch.
because you didn't think I should have
unrelated to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat
Sever
governors said
200.
President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people
Yo,
that
Trump
would
kinda
not
buff.
be
You see that?
necessarily on my side said that. President
Yep.
Trump did a phenomenal job.
Keep
we
talking,
did.
Trump.
We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away.
Yeah, we got
from
one Trump, one Biden in
we're
chat.
doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a
Okay.
great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press.
Speak your
they give
mind.
me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic
Let me,
recession.
sir, you made a
Well, you didn't do very well in swine flu.
This is his
H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
You folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
you would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson &
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political.
sorry to pause it,
because
but he
the
chipped
left,
smack.
or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left.
suggesting
What
that the
happened?
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available, not when
Well,
it'll
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering
is the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
I-
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No
Yeah, shut
more
up,
than
shut
the
up, shut
question
up.
you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you
Everybody
can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying you
no.
can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no, you can't
I
trust the
wouldn't want to get
scientists.
to it.
She didn't say that. You can't
She
trust the
said
wanna get
the
to where?
public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be
The
muzzled,
vaccine
will be
will get
suppressed.
Well, that's what he's
Your
going to
mic
try
is
to do,
kinda
but
going
there's
off right
millions of
now.
scientists, there's
I wouldn't
thousands
wanna
of
get the
scientists out there,
vaccine
like
till
here at this
people get
great
it.
hospital,
Mm.
that don't work for him. Their
Make
job
people
doesn't
die.
depend on
Bro,
it.
I would not do
That's
the
not-
vaccine.
They're the people.
No, I would-
is
By the way,
to
the
scientists
making
that are
of the
in charge.
vaccine.
They will have the
And-
vaccine
Huh?
very soon.
Let him finish.
Bill
Don't
Gates made
believe
the
for a
vaccine.
moment
Yeah, fuck that.
what he's
Yeah,
telling
fuck
you.
that.
in light
I
of
would
Wait,
never
why
put
don't
that
you
in
guys
my
fuck up?
told you about
Wait, hold up.
the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even
I'd
acknowledged
want to wait
that
until
he
like
knew
at least
this
like
was
a
happening,
year.
knew how dangerous it was going to be back
You
in
get it?
February, and he didn't even
But in a
tell
year,
you.
you're gonna be
If it
dead.
He's on
became,
record
if it
as
be, if
saying
it became
he
something
panicked
like
or
how
he
like
just looked
flu
at the
shot,
stock
or it's
market.
like get your
One of
flu
the two,
shot, and they're
because
like
guess
here's your
what?
better shot,
A
and they'd
lot
be
of
like
people
yeah,
die.
but it's like
And
I'm
a
probably
lot
like
more
I'm
are going
probably
to die
shots
unless
and
he gets a
vaccines. Like
lot
I'm not
smarter, a lot
anti-vax like
quicker.
at
Mr.
all. But I
President?
think
You're still gonna be in
Use the
testing.
word
It's the
no,
first.
I think, yeah, I know. I
So
think you
you
need to get
said you
vaccines
went
in
to
general,
Delaware
but with like
State, but you
shit
forgot
like
the
that
name
that's
of
new,
your
like you
college.
don't know.
You didn't go to
Okay,
Delaware
you're gonna be
State.
putting
You
COVID into
graduated
yourself. You might not
either the lowest or
react well.
almost the lowest in your class. Don't
That's
ever
what I'm
use the
saying.
word smart with
Mm.
me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if
now,
you would have
seriously.
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and
he's
it's
We're going
going
to get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the
And they
two
go
of you
low-key
have
hot
taken
as hell.
very different approaches, and this is going to affect
Who?
how the
That guy
virus
that's
is
talking.
handled going forward by
The mediator.
whichever of you ends up becoming the next
You
president.
like him?
I want to quickly go through several
Yeah, he's
of those.
fucking
Reopenings.
sexy.
Yeah,
Vice
hands
President
off.
Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is.
What's the
You've got
plan,
to
Biden?
provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he.
Who is it? Who the
shush
fuck?
for a minute.
Tell it to
We-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And
And
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate. And he sits in his golf course. And well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe.
Oh
just
my
for 1
gosh.
second.
Trump with the jokes,
wanna-
bro.
He wants to shut down the country. We just
Trump
went
was
through it.
lame.
We had to because we didn't know
Fuck
anything
outta
about
Joe,
it.
It's a
yeah.
roast
We
session.
found
Trump ain't even
that elderly
debating.
people with heart problems and
Fonto
diabetes
said
and
Trump
different problems
2020.
are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing.
Right.
If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain
He said your-
states,
he said your
that have been
state.
shut down,
I'm
they have
New Jersey, don't
Democrat
fuck with
governors
me.
all.
No,
One of
not
the
you,
reasons they shut
Kelsey.
down
No,
is because
she's
they want it
Jersey
to be
too.
shut down until after the election.
Yeah.
November 3rd.
Move on to another
Because it's a political
I can't hear you.
I gotta
But
respond.
those,
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
which is
right
Gotta
now.
respond.
God.
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun
He's
to
right. He's
increasingly question the
800,000 people are
effectiveness
watching
of
this
masks as
on
a
YouTube.
disease.
Yeah, I thought it was my stream. I'm like,
Recently, you
nigga.
have
We got
cited
4 in the
the
stream.
issue of
My friend sent me to this
avoiding
Discord.
masks and touching plates. Are you questioning the
No,
What
I
is
think
going
the
on?
masks
Welcome to the
are-
stream,
You
boys.
have to understand, if you look, I mean,
Oh, I
I
got
have a mask
messages.
right here. I put a mask on it
How do I
when
do
think
this?
I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from me. He shows up with the biggest
It's a
mask I've
roast
ever
session,
seen.
bro.
I will say,
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
I'm weak, my nigga. It's a roast
Way to
session.
run businesses
Biggest mask
is
I've
give
ever
them the
seen.
wherewithal to be able to- We provided money. The Congress
Didn't Joe
asking you,
Biden
sir,
say
about
he
masks.
hates
Well,
masks?
Masks
I
make
don't
a big
even know,
difference.
bro.
His own head of CDC said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd
Yeah, but
probably
you don't
save
have
up
to
to
wear it when you're fucking by
100,000
yourself.
lives. It matters.
and they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite.
It matters.
They've also
And
said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
No
also said, well, look
serious.
at,
all right, I
look
wanna
at
ask
Dr.
you-
Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did
Oh.
not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
Said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said,
Biden
"No,
2020,
I'm
let's
not
go,
with
guys.
masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks."
one last subject because
Still.
your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed
There was
together,
a-
thousands of people.
Outside.
Trump
Outside,
rally.
yes, sir. Agreed.
2 days ago
Vice
in
President
Harrisburg.
Biden,
Wait,
you are
wait,
holding
what was that?
much
Yo, I'm adding
smaller,
somebody to the call.
events
Which
with
nobody will show up.
people with
Huh?
I added somebody.
True.
Wait,
Nobody shows
what's
up
up?
to his
Hey.
rallies.
All right. In any case, why you're
Welcome to the
holding
stream,
big
boy.
rallies, why you're
Uh,
not?
It's Trump
You go first,
2020.
answer.
Trump is an orange, bro. Look at the
See
chat.
what I have to say. I mean,
But are you not worried
great
about it?
job,
Trump
Mr.
2020.
President, and I'll have
Can
25,000
YouTube hear me?
people show up
Yeah,
at
yeah, you're good.
airports. We use airports.
Are you
as
not
hangars,
worried about
we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues?
people.
All right, so
Well, so
And for
far,
now
you
it's
guys
Wait,
you
wait,
guys,
hold on.
you
Listen to
guys,
this. Y'all shut up.
No,
Y'all
it's
shut up.
everyone.
who's all the Biden supporters here?
Just
experts.
Flex.
And we do on that side. We have
Yes.
Holy
tremendous.
Hey, y'all
as you
listen to this.
see,
Y'all
I
listen
mean,
to
every-
this. Y'all listen to this.
and literally on 24
All
hours.
right, wait.
notice.
Oh, Flex.
And Joe
Can
does the
you
circles
tell
and
me
has
why?
three
Can you
people
tell me why you
someplace.
a Biden
Yo,
supporter?
listen.
Did you see one of the last big rallies he had?
Can
And
you
a
tell me
reporter
why?
came
Hold
up to
on,
him
hold
to
on.
ask him a question. He said,
All
no.
right.
Stand
Wait, can I
back.
invite my
Put
friends to
on
this
your
call?
mask. Put on a
Yeah,
mask.
hold on.
Have you been tested?
Listen.
I'm way
did.
far away from those other people.
All right, I'm
That's what he
listening.
said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had
Dude,
no
what
negative
the
effect. And we've
fuck
had
are you doing?
35,
Let's just
40,000
play and
people
do
at these
3v3.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would.
No, I'm gonna play and I'm gonna spit pure facts, all right?
Which he has handled the social
not
distancing
playing.
and people wearing
You're trolling.
masks. Basically, encourage them not to.
I'm gonna
And
play.
he's a fool.
I'm
on
gonna
this.
If you
spit
could
true
get
facts
the
from why
crowds, you
Trump
would have done the
2020.
same
All right.
thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Talk
Gentlemen,
to
can
me.
we move
Hello.
on to the
Nobody cares.
gentlemen? Can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The
Yeah, you
economy
can suck my ass. You want
is, I
suck
think it's
my
fair to
ass.
say,
I was just trying to
recovering
get bitch ass the whole
faster
time.
than expected from the shutdown.
Much
This-
faster.
In the second quarter, the
All right.
unemployment rate fell to 8.4%
Trump 20
last month.
2003.
The Federal Reserve says the hit.
I
to
agree with you
growth,
because
which is
me and my
going to
friends
be
might have
there,
played trios
is
and
not
I
going to be
didn't
nearly
care.
as big as they had expected.
I will just shit on you.
President Trump,
Creative
you
if I
say
have
we
to,
are in a
bitch.
V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more
didn't
of a
invite Pico, by the way.
K-shape. What difference?
Yeah, guys, be
does
quiet.
that
We're watching the
mean
live stream.
to the American
I'm
people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in
I thought this
history.
was
We
be a
closed
debate.
it down because of the China plague.
I think
When
it
the
is a
plague
debate.
Came in, we closed it down,
is.
which was
Says it
very
right there in
hard
the little bottom black
psychologically
thing.
to do. He didn't think we should close
Yeah,
it down.
hashtag.
He was wrong. And again, 2 million people.
Biden
would be
look
dead now
confuzzled.
instead of still 204,000 people.
That's your
It's too
man,
much.
Flex.
One
Oh,
person
fuck, I forgot.
Should have never happened from China.
I don't even know
What happened
myself.
is we closed it down, and
Alright,
now we're reopening, and we're doing
suck
record
my ass,
business.
lick my balls,
We had
and I'll leave, alright?
10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into
bye.
the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in
Yo,
some of your
bye.
Democrat-run states. where they have
Bye.
these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because
Trump
they don't wanna
3954.
open it.
Let's
One of
go.
them came out last week. You saw that.
The fuck is
Oh,
that?
we're gonna open
Trump
up on
winning?
November 9th. Why November
I don't
9th?
know. I'm gonna
Because
look
it's
it up.
after the election.
You're
They think
streaming
they're
this shit,
hurting
Max?
us.
Of course,
by keeping
YouTube,
them
what?
closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can
So why
wash
do you
their
want
hands.
Biden
They
to
can
win,
wear
Flex?
masks. They can do
I don't
whatever
like
they
Yeah,
Trump.
yeah. Talk
But
to
they
us,
gotta
Flex.
open
Why?
this.
Why?
When you look at North
I
Carolina,
don't-
Now real quick. Talk to us,
Governor
I don't
Flex.
like the way Trump was uninformed with Corona.
Michigan, and a couple
Oh,
That
of
is
my.
crazy. Biden would have killed
It's
way
not
more
fair.
people than
You're
Trump
talking
has
about
killed.
almost it's like
Yeah,
being
look in
How
the chat.
about-
Look
you
in
look
the
at
chat.
what's going
TikTok
on
says
with
Trump is a
divorce.
dumbass.
Look
I
at what's
agree.
going
Dude,
on
I
with
don't. I give
alcoholism
a
and
fuck about
drugs. It's
someone
a
with their
very,
being
very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country
Okay.
and destroy our country.
So,
our country is
before
coming
Corona
back
happened, I'm
incredibly
sure you were
well,
anti-Trump.
setting
Why?
records as it does.
Bro, you're
it.
watching
We don't need
CNN
somebody
10,
to
yo.
come
They're
in
the
and say,
fakest
"Let's
people
shut
here.
it
It's the
down."
same thing.
All right.
It's the same
2
live
minutes,
stream.
sir. We're now
Nah,
moved to
but
you.
CNN 10 is fake, yo.
As I
I just
said,
clicked on one. I
posing
didn't
your
look for
question, the president
news.
says it's a
It's the same
V-shaped
thing.
recovery. You say it's a K-shaped.
What the fuck is this?
recovery. What's the
VK
difference?
K-shape.
You
Difference
really,
is
so you really don't have a
millionaires
real
and
reason.
billionaires
to
like
fuck
him.
it.
I do. I want to get into it. I want to watch the live
Done
stream.
very well.
No, 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 no,
Another
no. Okay.
Billionaires
Let's
have
watch
raised-
this Flex
have
live
made
stream.
another $300
Flex,
cut
billion
it up.
All right, Flex. We'll watch
because
your
of
live
his
stream.
profligate
Thank you.
tax
Flex, cut it up. Cut it up.
What do you mean?
proposal, and
I can't
you
hear
only
anything in
focus on the
Discord.
market. But you folks
Oh, I
at
gotta.
home,
Oh, got you.
you
Got you.
folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns. in
Yo,
America,
Flex.
Yo,
This guy paid
Look at
a
chat.
total of $750
Flex, look at
in
chat.
taxes.
Flex, look at chat.
allow my ass off.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2
Flex,
minutes.
look at
so
chat.
please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he is, in fact,
The fuck
worked
is
on
this?
in a way that he's going to be the first
Flex, look
president
at
of the
that.
United States
All right,
to
hold
leave
on.
office, having
You can
fewer
hear it, right?
jobs in his administration. Then when he
I
was
see
vice
it.
president.
I see it. I see it.
Here's the other
Sperm built,
And
nigga.
when he became president,
Good job.
first one in American
Oh,
history.
the delay.
Secondly, the people who
delay.
have lost their
All right,
jobs
listen.
are those people
Which
who have
chat are
been
y'all
on the
talking
front
about?
lines.
This-
Oh,
Those
it's the
people
right.
who have been
Nah,
saving our
don't
lives.
watch
Those
his
people who
stream.
have been out
Not
there
like
dying.
you can't support him, but like
People
don't
who
watch it
putting
because if you do, like
themselves
it's
in a
gonna
way
be
to
so
make
much
sure
Just turn the
delay.
volume
we
down.
could
Just turn the
all try
volume
to
down.
make it.
You're gonna hear yourself
idea
echoing
that he
flex
is
is ugly as
insisting
fuck anyway.
that
So like,
we
you don't
Kels,
wanna watch
go
that.
fuck
forward
Biden, Trump. I'm not
open
showing
when
that
we
show.
have
That's just
across
not this.
America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID
Kelsey, I hope you
cases
know they
in the
can't see
United
your
States
shit.
of America. And he
What do
wants
you mean
to
you're
open
hiding
it up
my
more.
shit?
Why does he want to open it up?
Wait, Flex,
Why
you're on
does he
Twitch
take
right now?
care of the issue? You can't
Huh?
fix
Flex,
the
you're on Twitch right
economy
now?
until
No,
you
he's
fix the
live
COVID
on
crisis.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And he has no intention of doing anything
Here,
about
I'll
making it
post
better
link in
for you all
Discord.
No,
at
no, no, I got it,
home
I got it.
in
Yeah,
terms
okay.
of your
Yo,
health and your
TikTok, I
safety.
have my Discord.
Schools. Why aren't schools open?
Yo,
Because it costs a
TikTok.
lot of money to open them safely. You know,
right,
You
listen
only
to
got
Chuck.
one
give
person in
the
chat.
visibility of the teachers and the school
No, Kelsey
schools.
in there too. Listen to the live.
Decided, no, couldn't do
Listen
that
to the
because
live
it's a
stream.
national
Me and
emergency,
TikTok.
not a national emergency.
Fuck
They've
Biden,
done
Trump
nothing to
2020.
help small businesses.
Kelsey, you
What do you
support
mean?
Trump too?
Closing.
Cuss on my
1 in
stuff?
6
You
is
said
now
no one
gone.
could see it.
No,
You
I
gotta
just
get
did it.
on the job and
What?
take
Yo,
care of
TikTok,
the
add
needs
me,
of
put
the
my thing in
American
chat.
people, so we can't open
Yeah.
safely.
All right.
What do you
Your
say,
time is
Pat?
up, sir.
You
We're
support
going to
Trump
get
I
to
too?
this.
have to
Yeah.
respond to that.
Well, you
Grab
both
your
have 2
Biden's
minutes,
balls.
sir.
Excuse me.
Hey,
you
yo,
understand?
All right, all
um,
right, all right.
So
I'd like a
people
real
want
reason
their
why
schools-
Biden would
no, people want their schools
should win over
open.
Trump.
They don't want to be
Because
shut
he has
down.
real hair.
They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so
Okay,
an
sad
actual
what's
reason.
happening
He's not
in
a
New York. It's
dickhead.
almost
Do you have
like
an
a
actual
suicide.
reason?
No, I
I'm
have
not sure
reason, but I
totally
want to say
Republican
like
what
after this
they've
is
done
done.
in
I
New
don't
York.
want to overtalk
People
them.
want their
I have
places
reasons why I'm
open.
not gonna
They
freaking
want to
like
get back
argue
to
over
their
this shit,
lives.
'cause every
They'll
time
be
I get
careful,
into shit
but
like
they
No, I
want
just want
their
a reason.
schools open.
And Passive is
I'm the
gonna
one that
fucking
brought
scream
back
about how
football. By
Biden
the
did
way, I
some
brought
child
back
rape
Big
shit.
Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it.
I don't know why, but like
People
that's
in
just super
Ohio are
funny to me.
very
If like,
proud
I
of
don't
me.
know why.
And you know
We're going
how
to
I
get
found
back,
out? When it's this
gentlemen, we're
phony
going to
ad.
get
Yo,
to your
Biden's winning by
economic
like
plans
9%.
going
It's
forward in a
7%.
moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a
Bottom
new
line.
report.
Hillary
that in
was winning by like
2016, the year
20%,
you were elected
and she still
president, and
lost.
2017,
It was
your
rigged.
first year as president, that you
Yeah,
paid
and she rigged that bitch.
$750
No,
a
in
year
Trump's
in
favor, it was
federal
rigged.
income tax each
No,
of
it was
those
definitely
years.
rigged in her favor.
And by
I know
Russians,
that you
they threw the
pay
votes in
a lot
Russia.
of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income
Trump is winning
taxes
this.
each
Biden
of those
is
2
complete
years?
dumbass.
Yo,
Millions
listen.
of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid
38
$27
million.
million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have a very, I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking you a
company.
specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of that.
return.
But
I'm
let
asking- no,
That
Mr.
guy don't
President.
care. He just tell me.
He's like, I hear you, but fuck you, you know?
Boy, like I don't
pay
care.
in
Like what you
federal
gotta
income
say. Just tell me
taxes
what I would need.
in 2016 and 2017.
Millions of
Rotate, I don't know you know,
You paid
enough to make
millions
you
of
mod, bro.
dollars of
That's
dollars.
creepy.
So not
millions of
750.
dollars, and you'll get this.
And he
and
digs
you'll
stuff
get
for
to see
the
it.
president like that.
But
He's
let
just
me
like,
just
sir,
tell you,
sir, sir,
Chris, let me
sir.
just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through
Fucking
the
joke.
laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all
You're
these privileges
daddy
for
passive. I don't know that person.
depreciation and for tax
Oh my God,
credits.
make me
We
mod,
built
yo,
the building, and
dickhead.
we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by
Flex,
the
make me
Obama
mod.
Hold on.
administration, if you can believe
I don't even
that.
know how to do that.
Now, the man got
We've
fired
given
Kelsey's
him
daddy
right after
passive
that
too.
happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do
Anyone,
wanna respond.
anybody want to
Wait,
play?
Flex,
Real?
wave to the
Tax
camera so I know
code
you're real.
Made him.
How I'm waving. Do you
put
see
him
me?
in
Am I
position
real?
where he
Can
pays
you
less tax
write a
in the
sign
future.
with my name on it?
On the
Write
money
a
you're supposed
sign
to
with your
get.
name.
Stand
Is
next to a
because of
clock.
He
With
says he's
not
smart
a
because he
time
can
on
take
it.
advantage
Yeah,
of the tax
just for you.
code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the
Damn,
Trump
I'm
tax
dumbass. I
cuts.
can't spell
I'm going
admin.
to eliminate those tax cuts
Anybody
and
want
make
to
sure
play?
that
wave
we
to the
invest in
camera
the
so I know
people
you're
who, in
real.
fact, need the
How
help.
I'm waving. Do you see
People
me?
out
Am I
there
real?
need
Can
help.
you?
But why didn't you do it over
Flexible,
the
your
last
stream is
5 years?
not
Because
here.
you're
Dude,
one
that
of
shit
the
is
fastest
weird,
ways
yo.
for a
What?
president to screw
I cannot
things
be in
up.
Discord
You
and
were a
listen to
senator,
your
and
stream.
You're the worst
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
president
looked
America
down
has
his
ever
wiki
had.
shit
Hey,
because
Joe,
he's
Yeah,
not
just turn
doing
it down.
Say,
see.
Joe. I've done more in
Yeah, when I
in
put it up, like
47
See, if I
just
cut
years,
it
like
down,
I've
if I
done
cut
more
it down,
than
I
you've
can't
done
hear
in
the
47 years, Joe.
president debate.
We've done
no,
things
no,
that
no,
you
no, no.
never even
Watch his
thought
share
about,
screen. He
including
can share
Yeah.
fixing
screen
the
himself.
broken military that you gave me,
Let-
including
let's-
taking care of
We're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you
Like
about
you.
your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
no.
president,
Mr. Vice
focuses a lot on
President.
big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to
Well, this
focus
kid's want me
first
to
on
add
the
him.
taxes.
I got it.
You
Hey, anybody wanna
propose
play
more than
trios?
$4
Nah, we
trillion
watching this.
over a decade
We're
in new
watching
Shut up.
taxes on individuals
Bro,
making
I'm
more
just
than
gonna watch it my own.
$400,000 a year
No, no,
and on corporations.
yeah, because it's the same thing. It's like a
President
second
Trump
delay.
says that
You good?
that kind of an increase in taxes is going to
Damn,
hurt the
I'm
economy
a
as it's just coming
dumbass.
out of a recession.
Well,
Okay,
just take a
so
look at
add
what
me.
is.
Yo, what's going on,
the
guys? Welcome to the
analysis
stream.
done
We're
by
watching
Wall
the
Street
presidential
firm.
debate, Trump versus Biden.
Points out
Comment down
that
what side you guys
my-
are on,
my
red or
economic
blue.
plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic
Oh,
growth because
wait,
it would be
wait,
about
wait.
buying American. That
Wait,
we have to,
Jackson,
we're going to make
didn't you
the federal
say
government
that
spend
Trump made more
$600
jobs
billion
for
a
black
year on
people
everything from
than
Red.
to
Trump
steel
ever
to
did?
building.
Now, I'm
And
hearing that
Kelsey,
Biden
chill.
and
we're
everybody
going to
Kill.
make
else.
sure that every
You're gonna
penny
get
of
killed
that
for
has
spamming.
to be made by
And wait,
a
wait,
company.
But
guys,
respectfully, sir,
I'm
I'm
hearing
talking
now
about
that
taxes, not
Trump made
spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate
Biden made
a significant number of the
more
tax. I'm going to
billion
make
jobs for people
the
than
corporate
That's
Trump
tax
did
racist,
in
Clark.
every
Who
That's
told you that?
so,
21%.
Who told you that?
You
so
have
He
cap
just said it. He
because
just said it.
91
because
companies.
Flex, run
Obama
that back.
I mean,
Flex, run that back.
Obama's unemployment rate
Pay a
was like
single penny in
9 when
tax,
he was in
making
office,
billions
Exactly,
and
of
Trump
exactly.
went
Run that
down
back.
by
Yo,
over
yeah.
half.
because
Run
because
that
you,
back
in
now.
fact,
Kelsey,
passed
do you
that.
like Trump? I
That
mean,
was
do you
the
like
tax
Barack
proposal.
I got it
Obama?
done. And you know what
Yeah,
happened?
you got it done.
Our
No,
economy
Barack
collapsed.
Obama was the
No.
worst president we have had.
Wow.
President,
Gosh.
Mr. President, let me
Wow.
pick up on that. You
Red is the
would
imposter.
continue
Benjamin,
your
red
policy
is the
Obama,
imposter.
Obama literally,
taxes, more
Obama literally
deregulation,
had our
correct?
Not lower
unemployment
taxes
up
for
to
American people.
9%.
Exactly.
But in
Boy,
Obama's,
was
you talk about the
terrible
economy
president.
booming, it
I
turns
think
out
ours
that in
now is like
Obama's final 3
30-something.
years as president, more jobs
Not
were
sure.
created.
Look at
1.5
Flex's head,
million
yo.
more jobs
That shit cute,
than
huh?
in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest
Why is it saying I
recovery
popped the
since
stream out to another window?
economic
I didn't.
recovery since
Did I?
1929. It was the
Yeah, I'm
slowest
confused.
recovery.
I
Also,
didn't.
they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic
Red is the
recovery
imposter,
since
Benjamin.
1929. Let me tell you about the stock market.
Team blue.
When the stock market goes up, that
Fuck
means
you,
jobs.
Benjamin.
It also means
Exactly.
401k.
Leave the
Fuck
fucking
Benjamin.
stream
If
right
you
now.
got in,
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
why he has
become
no
president.
subscribers.
You want to terminate
Fuck
my
you,
tax?
Benjamin.
My
Oh,
taxes.
shit.
Fuck you,
I'll tell you what. You'll
Yeah,
lose
tell him, Kelsey.
half of the companies that have poured in
You
here
tell him.
will leave, and
Oh,
half
change it.
companies that are
How you
already
double
here, they'll leave
screen
for
thing
other
that you're
places.
doing?
They will leave, and
make
you
it
will
small.
have a depression, the likes
No
of
shit.
which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was
Okay,
asked to
bars.
bring it back. We were able
Word.
to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking
Okay.
about. We handed him he blew it.
It
He
wasn't
fucking
booming.
blew it.
He
It
blew
wasn't
it.
Exactly.
booming. It was the
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, there was when there was record low unemployment
Twitch, I got you.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris.
Oh.
Number two.
Chris,
Number
this
three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number
Dumbass.
two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back
That's-
700,000
talk to him.
jobs. They brought back nothing. They
Talk
gave up
to
on
him.
Fuck is they talking about,
manufacturing.
Trump?
My standard fare.
Wait,
I'm
what?
the
What's
guy
the
that
votes right
brought
now?
back the
50
economic
what?
manufacturing.
50,
We brought
43.
back- I was asked to
Wait,
bring
they're
back
voting right now?
Chrysler
It's
and
no.
General
No,
Motors.
no,
It's
no.
vote.
It's like it's based on like the estimates.
He blew it. And in fact,
Wonder you're
Ohio had the best year. it's
Somebody's
ever had
watching the
last
stream.
year.
Turn that down.
Michigan had
They're
the best
winning.
year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car
Kelsey,
companies
you
came in
gotta
from
get
Germany,
Ah,
Yeah.
dang, I don't
went to
have
Michigan,
fucking
went to
open.
Ohio.
Yeah, whoever watching the stream, turn it down in Discord. Whoever's
So
I
watching.
just
you
came
take
up
a
with
look at
I'm
what
not
he's
watching
actually
the stream.
done.
Adam,
you.
Adam, back to the
Very
Discord
little.
call. I kind of
I'm not-
kicked
I'm
him.
not watching
Should I
the
mute
stream
him? And I
anymore.
kind of kicked
He
him.
talks about these
So.
great trade deals.
Adam,
He
back
talks
to
about
the
the art of
Discord
the
call,
deal.
please, and thank
China's
you.
made
Yeah.
perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest deficit
Bro,
trade
the
deficit
only thing,
with
these
Mexico.
presidents are basically saying that Trump didn't do anything, then Trump is just saying Biden didn't do anything. Then Biden's saying Trump didn't do anything, then Trump is saying Biden didn't do anything.
That's what it is. Who could
That's
say
all
it
they're
better?
doing. Oh, shut the hell up.
And also,
It's
while
a
we're at
debate.
it, why is it, just out of
Fuck.
curiosity,
Fuck.
The only thing I'm
the
scared for
mayor of
Biden is that,
Moscow's
like, if he
wife
goes
gave
into
your
the
son $3.5
White House, he
million.
might die off
That's
rip.
not
What did he
true.
do? What did he do?
Nigga die on spawn.
Whoever was running for vice president, you gotta fucking like them.
Let him answer.
Exactly.
Biden's gonna die on spawn.
But no, Mr. President,
Numbers that die off rip, yo.
Oh shit, man.
Totally discredited. By the way,
Well, wait, he
let's
didn't get
talk-
$3.5
That boy said
million?
Biden's gonna die off rip.
$3.5 million.
that is
He's
not
gonna
true.
sit down and be like that.
Yeah, listen.
It's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's
you
no-
have raised an
Yeah,
issue.
Biden tight.
Vice President
Yeah,
answer.
Biden's tight.
Kid Burris
was
for
a-
Wait.
$185,000
Bro.
a month.
Jackson and Kelsey,
Bro.
you got wait.
Experience
That's going
and
there.
energy.
Wait.
That's
what
it.
I said.
Stupid
It's
ass-
this guy.
Nothing
Fucking-
wrong
I
with
know.
this
I
man.
think he
Yo,
deserves
fix your
it.
mic. Fix your mic.
Guy that
Let him
did
answer.
something.
Nah, fuck that kid. I'm tired
He
of
doesn't want to let me answer
random
because he
people.
knows
All right,
I
stay in the
know
chat,
the truth.
Darwin.
His position has been thoroughly discredited.
Fuck you,
and
Benjamin.
Media.
By everybody. Well, by
All right.
the media, by our
Because they were-
allies,
What you call
by
it,
the
um,
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
What do you call it? Do you guys?
by everyone. has
Why did they both
discredited.
just shut up?
Matter of fact,
What?
even
Mr.
the
President?
people
Do you
who
guys
testified
like
under
the
oath.
lady
So
that
let me ask you this.
Biden
No,
picked
no,
as
no,
vice
go ahead.
president?
Mr.
If
I'm
you want,
listening
like,
to you.
you guys have
People
anything
under-
against
He
her?
got $3.5
He
million.
I don't want
testified-
Biden to win general.
He
He's
testified
not,
under
so,
oath in his
But like
administration.
what do you call it?
I did
Wait,
a
what
good
was the
job,
question?
and
What
I
was
did
the
it
question?
very
Like, what do you
well.
call it? Do you guys like
Under
the
oath.
They are.
Every,
Yeah.
well, I'll
That's
give you the
Schumer,
list
right?
of the people who
That,
testified.
Harris?
Sure,
Yeah,
you've already
you guys-
fired
Hell
most of them because
no.
they did a good
Why?
job.
What
Some
does she
people don't
do?
a
Well,
good
here's-
job.
She's worse than
You get
Biden.
the- wait a minute.
Huh?
You get the final word.
Let me know why.
Shawty
Let me
don't
know
know
why.
what she's talking about at
Excuse me,
all.
this-
Hey, let me
Talk
just
to
say
him.
that.
No. I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
She,
That
I
is-
like how they say
Why
Mr.
did he
President and they
deserve
call him
$3.5
Vice
million from
President.
Moscow?
Look,
They could just say
here's the
Joe
deal.
and
Yeah,
Donald.
he's not even vice
Donald.
president. He's not even vice
Exactly.
president
I don't
anymore.
want to do that.
though.
I mean,
Like, they
his
can say
family,
Joe,
we talk
they can say
about all
Trump.
night. His family,
Donald.
my
Mr.
family,
Trump
No,
is
no,
the-
let him go.
My family
Ha ha,
lost a
Flex, you're
fortune
ugly. Shut up.
going down and helping
Shut up.
Mr.
Go
Governor.
ahead, sir.
Like you have a watermark in the bottom of your screen. Like who's gonna
This is
steal your
not
clips?
about
Talk to
my
me, please.
family or his
Old
family. It's about
McDonald
your
had
family,
a
the
farm.
American
$3.5
people.
million.
He
Yeah, you
doesn't.
better start
That's not
singing.
true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you.
Why are you looking into the
That's what
camera
we're
so
talking
hard?
about.
All right,
We're getting to
we're
ourselves,
the
man.
segment. We're moving
That's,
on.
bro, that's how you. That's how.
Vice
You,
President,
I think that's how Biden
Can I
gonna
be
win.
honest?
vote.
It's a very
You can look
You,
into the
my
camera.
nigga.
You.
You.
No,
You
I-
need to help
the answer
the
to the
economy.
question is no.
You can
No,
make
I-
America.
sir,
Wait, shut up, shut up.
That is
You know what? You're
absolutely not
Stop.
true.
tape
You're,
doing it.
you're going to
Not
have
true.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice, but
he's
I
on
see it seems
tape.
to be. Why should I be different than the two of you? So
Word.
here's the deal.
Cute ass
We
nigga.
have
That
Stop
is.
both of y'all with the
6
COVID-19.
segments. We have ended that segment.
Yeah,
We're
shut
going to
up,
go to the
shut
next.
up,
segment.
shut up.
In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would
Yo,
be
look
better
at Trump's
served
knees,
if
yo.
we allowed both people to speak with
What?
fewer interruptions. I'm
Love
appealing
Trump.
to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Oh,
less
he
than-
said,
Ooh.
"Shut
Sir,
up,
less
if
than-
you're president
no,
or
less
not."
than you
Sit
have.
though.
Let's
down,
please
big
continue
sugar.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, you better
Cuff
you
and
better
flex.
back us
Vice
up.
Cuff
President
and
Biden, you
flex.
say that
Yeah.
President
Do you guys want
Trump's
universal healthcare?
response to the violence
They don't
in
even know what the fuck that
Charlottesville 3
means.
years
You ain't
know
ago,
what
watch
that
this down there.
means?
He's making a
talked
point. He's making a
about
point. Hold
No,
up.
no.
fine people
Wait,
on
hold
both
on.
Look at
sides
Biden's neck.
was what directly led you to launch
Look
this
at the
run.
both
No, I want to hear the
sides.
question. I want to hear the
Alright.
question.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question
Yep.
for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity
What?
and equality. It's about decency.
Trump is
It's
an orange
about
piece of
the
shit.
Constitution.
He looked like he got
All
sick.
right, why don't you want
Walked
Trump to
away
win?
from
And he's
trying
still
to
more
acquire-
Yeah,
Why
wait,
don't
let
you
him-
want
let
Trump
him-
to
let him
win?
answer the question.
No,
Hold
no,
on.
no.
Equality
Why
for
don't you
the
want Trump to
whole-
win?
of
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
No, I'm just playing around. I'm just playing
We
around.
never
Why don't you-
did.
exactly,
We
exactly.
never
What about you,
walked
Flex?
away from it
Hold on,
like
hold
he
on.
has done.
Flex,
It
why
is
don't you
true.
want
The
to why
reason
don't
I
you
got
want
in
to
the
win?
races when those
I
people
just don't
close
like
your
Trump.
eyes. Remember what
Why?
Yo, listen
Why?
to this. He's talking about race. Hold on.
Blonde monkey.
Wait,
Why don't
wait,
you want
wait,
to
wait,
win?
hold on, hold on. Shut up, shut up, shut up.
spewing, just spewing anti-Semitic bile and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is who's
Now,
who
second,
minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to
He
you
said, "Shut up."
is that when Floyd was killed,
That
when
boy's
Mr.
sweating
Floyd
like
was
a
killed,
mother.
there was a peaceful protest in
Look
front
at
of the
those.
White House. What did he do? He came out of his
How
bunker.
about when
had the
Biden told people?
military
Yo, hold on.
tear gas
Listen,
on
do you-
so he could
okay,
walk
sorry.
across
Sorry.
to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate
The
racist
Trump's neck looked
hatred,
like a pussy,
racist
yeah.
division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk
You
about
remember when
helping
Biden said that if you don't vote for me,
One
you ain't
in
black?
1,000
Oh, yeah.
African Americans.
Is that why you like it black? You wanna be
coronavirus.
I want to be really black. I want to be 100% black, bro.
500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to
The
look
fuck
at
has
what
Biden
he did.
done?
And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
Talk to
President
him.
Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should
Get Trump
Americans
lips.
trust you over
Alright,
your
chill out. I wanna hear
opponent to
Trump. I
deal
wanna
with
hear all of
racism?
it.
the crime
Like-
bill,
2 minutes to shut the fuck up.
1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law
I'm not going to
enforcement,
catch
because if
Trump.
you
and
say
put it
the
like
Shut
that.
up.
you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? In Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in
Yo,
law and
Cuff,
order. but
mute your
you
mic.
don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor
Trump
case,
just put Biden in his place.
Breonna Taylor, Breonna
charged
Taylor.
any of the police with homicide. You said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there's a
Fuck they talking about?
systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out.
He compares a
They
cop
have
to an
be held
apple. I'm done.
accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs.
Hell no.
And
Yeah,
we're going to
because-
work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable.
They gotta
And
agree
by the
on
way,
that.
Violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
If y'all say he's done for this, I don't know.
When they run through the middle of the town,
He's
dumb for that.
burn down your
Yo,
store,
look at the-
kill
look
people
at the-
all over the place, that is
Like,
peaceful
Yo, look at the
protest.
chat. Say Biden look
You say
depressed.
it is.
President
did not
Trump, I'd
say-
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead.
race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This
I
month,
agree
your
with Biden on that one.
administration,
I don't care.
directed federal agencies
See what Trump
to
gotta
end
say.
racial sensitivity
He's gonna fuck
training
it up, right?
dresses white privilege or critical race theory.
Fuck it up, Trump.
Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it
Yep.
because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. The people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like.
Biden's soft as
What,
hell.
if-
Yeah.
Bro,
what
shut up,
insults
shut up.
them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You following
Are you
it
in
and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and
He
order.
loses
Law and
Let
order.
him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration. It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're
He
now.
is
You're,
president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
We
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every
you're-
record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent
He's so cute,
spikes
though.
in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question
is
is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot.
That's
if you look
terrible.
at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see
Why are you tired
problems
as
like
hell?
you've
He
never
wouldn't suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs.
Trump,
this
shut
is not
up.
1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden, Bernie Sanders task
Yeah,
force.
Coffee,
you
Discord's
talk
going
about,
on, so when you
quote,
want to talk, unmute yourself. But
reimagining
mute yourself now.
policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance.
Word.
They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevention.
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're talking about.
Shut up.
About defunding
Let
the
him
police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Well, you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not-
I feel bad for
Who do you
Biden.
have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out
Oh,
and supports
he
you.
put his on the spot.
Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do
No,
anything.
Put your voice in
One
your
law
voice.
enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the moderator's
I don't
role.
think there
and I
are
want-
any.
and
Yo,
I
it's
wanna
good,
get
Ram Bully.
to
I am
another
daddy.
subject, which is
Catching
the
him.
issue of protests
Church
in
it.
many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days
That's
of
my nigga right
protests,
there.
which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now.
Look on his
Have
dick.
you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am
What?
a former vice president. I've made it clear.
No, he's-
I've made it clear in my public statements that the
He is
violence
former.
should be prosecuted.
No, he's not.
It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called for
prosecuted.
the
He's not
people,
former vice
the
president,
leaders,
he is.
excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Exactly.
call bring in the
Exactly.
National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can,
What a
in fact,
dumbass.
take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the
No,
killer of the
that-
young man in the middle of the street. They shot him.
And
And for
President
3 days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S.
President
Marshals.
Trump.
They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who
I'm
said
gonna get
I
after
do.
this. I'm gonna be like, I got
I
your
think
head tomorrow.
Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said
She said that.
I don't
And so here's the
All right.
But here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point
sir.
is that
Word.
that's what he is keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
repeat. No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
Yo, put that nigga in timeout.
I would love to
You know,
answer-
sir,
I would love to end it, and
you
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no.
in the
I'm,
National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But
Trump
they
is
don't want to
bitching
accept
this
the
nigga,
National
bro.
Guard.
you have
Exactly.
repeatedly criticized
Look, Chris is
the
bro.
vice president for
Trump is
not
about to say, "I'm the
specifically
president,
calling
I'm
out
gonna have your head
Antifa
tomorrow."
and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Look at my
to say
chat on
that
YouTube. Look at
they
the chat.
need to
This nigga is
stand
funny.
up and not
Ram Bully.
add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what are you
If
saying?
I'm willing to do anything.
Be Trump for Halloween.
You want to call him?
That's just
what do you
scary as
wanna call
hell.
him? Give me a name.
White
Give me a name.
supremacists
Go
and
ahead.
right
Who do you want?
white supremacists
Put an
and
orange
white
on your head.
supremacists.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization, not malicious. That's what his
It's an idea.
FBI. His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna-
you know what?
we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
Gives you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head.
administration.
We're moving on to the next
Idea.
question.
Everybody
Antifa
in your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas. that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets, but we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this, 300 judges.
Yo, we got 6 viewers. Let's go. That's our top views.
Why should voters elect you president?
Yo, guys, comment down what side you're on, red or blue, Trump or Biden. Which side are you guys on?
Become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited
Comment
a
red for
recession.
Trump and
I
don't
was asked
comment
to
for
fix it.
Biden.
I did. We left him a
Fucking
booming
fun.
economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that
Hey,
I've
Flex.
gone head to head with Putin.
Yo.
And made it clear to him
Look at
we're
my
not going to
story,
take any
dumbass.
of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still
Hold on.
refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Yo, we got
So
one
you
blue
got-
so far.
And by the way,
Mr.
my
President,
son,
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That
not
was a
yelling
rhetorical
control. That's
question.
all.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes, you
okay.
may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires
Team
have
Blue.
gotten much more wealthy by $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes. And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He made a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he
given
given tens of millions? All right.
Yo, Rimbully, get in the call with us on Discord.
President Trump, we've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about not true.
Gentlemen,
that report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about
look at my boy
climate
gaming
change.
chair.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
Billion trees.
That human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live in cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point here, have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. But, sir, that's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen because of the car,
you guys
would
have
have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply
because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion.
Why would Fortnite be banned? What are you talking about?
You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways.
Talk to them, Biden. Talk to them.
We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out,
Flex,
where
can I
they
talk
want
to
to
you
take
real
out
quick?
the cows too. That's
true.
not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make.
I'm here. I'm here.
All right. So listen.
Let me
destroy our
Black, I
country.
forgot I was
Wait
going
a
to talk
minute,
about.
sir. I actually have.
Yeah, what's up?
You know, like
and it
Black
includes
Lives
upgrading
Matter
4 million
support,
buildings,
like you know that movement and
weatherizing
everything.
2 million homes over
Do you know
4
a white
years,
guy owns that?
building 1.5 million energy efficient homes.
Yo, a white
So
guy
the
owns that,
question
and he
becomes,
hates black
the
people.
president is
That
saying
guy's known.
some-
Wait, how do you own a movement? What are you saying?
That sounds like
Because
it's gonna
all that
cost a
money
lot of
that they
money and hurt
donate
the
in
economy.
What it's gonna do,
is
it's gonna
his
create
movement. They made it.
thousands
It's like
and
a
millions of
watermark,
jobs,
you know?
good-paying
He made it.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He made it to make money off black people.
Yes,
The
and he
fact
hates
is,
black
it's gonna
people. He's
create
one of the most
millions of
racist people we
good-paying
have.
jobs.
Who's
But
that?
y'all,
And these tax
y'all
Who the hell
stand for
is
this
voting for the
movement.
York?
Look it up.
Weatherized.
Wait,
I don't
who the
know.
hell
Hold
is,
on.
wait, who
I
the
can
hell
look
is
it up.
voting for
It's
the
gonna
Yo
make
and
the
Dior?
economy much safer.
I don't know.
Look how much
Dyer?
we're paying now to deal with the
Dior,
hurricanes.
like
with
Christopher
deal with
I
the
invited
as an
him.
answer for hurricane nuclear weapons
Yo,
on
Paul,
the
don't
Ukraine.
curse in my
never said
Christian
that at all.
comment
You
section.
made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard,
No, that's not
hard
it.
Hey, let's go
good
run up some
jobs
fields.
by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend
Are you guys
billions of
Republicans or
dollars now, billions
Democrats?
of dollars
Republican.
on floods,
Democrat.
hurricanes,
Democrat.
rising seas.
Like,
We're in
they're
real trouble.
Democrats, but
Look
me and
what's
Kelsey
happened
are
just in the
Republicans.
Midwest with these
That's what I'm talking
storms that
about.
come through
Yes,
and wipe
sir.
out
Fuck.
Oh my
entire
gosh.
sections
Fuck
Yeah,
of
but
the
me and
nation.
Passive know what we're talking
They can
about.
make
Exactly.
up for
They
it.
don't
What?
know. They just hate him because he's
Global
white.
warming.
Because
Make
me.
up
I
for
don't
it.
know,
It's
bro.
a
What?
I have my
global
reasons, bro.
problem.
All right, then what's
We
your
Me
reason?
too.
Like, talk to
What's
us.
your reason?
The rest of the world, we got to get them to come along.
No,
Yeah,
what?
okay.
You're all here now.
No, no,
What's
no.
your no,
No.
Cup, what's your
Gentlemen,
reason?
Wait a minute,
What's
Chris.
your
So why
reasons?
didn't he do it
So
for
I'm saying, what's
47
your
years?
His
You
reaction
why
to
didn't you
the
get going?
COVID thing, I didn't agree with
China
it.
sends up real dirt in
Mhm.
One
there.
thing, and he
Russia
said that
does,
today.
India does, they
What?
all do.
What happened?
We're
No,
supposed to be good.
since
And
it
by the way,
started back in
he made a
January.
couple of statements. The Green New
COVID.
Deal is
Mhm.
$100 trillion.
What does that have to do
Yeah,
with
and
it?
why did he like him before
Green
No,
COVID?
flex.
I didn't pay attention. I paid attention during COVID.
Exactly.
Alright, then what do you not like that
Exactly.
he did?
Bro,
Flex.
didn't Biden just say y'all are
Bro.
super?
He and his friends
Hold on,
made
hold on,
it
hold on.
up,
Let me-
and
quiet.
they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not-
he
It doesn't
did
make
was
sense
just
arguing over
he
politics. Just
called
be
Bro,
quiet.
he said you were a
Stupid
super
bastards.
predator,
I
yo. He
said
said
it
black
on
people were
tape.
super
He
predators,
said,
not your.
stupid bastards. He
Sir,
said it.
stop.
I
And he
would
said,
never say
and
that.
Trump
Play
said
it
that
out.
black
Play it.
countries were shit
Go
whole
ahead.
countries.
Mr.
But
Vice President.
I'm not gonna talk about that.
Biden
What?
said that if
his
you don't
final
vote for him, you're
question.
not
What?
black.
You look at
Tell
him?
you.
Bro,
Shut up
Joe
right now.
Biden literally said if you don't vote for him, you're not black. What is
Yo,
that?
no, deadass. I'm voting for him for the memes, bro.
And
For
about
the
this
memes.
question
Yeah,
of what it's going
okay.
to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea
I don't
of
want to be
what
black,
your
so
environmental changes will
Flex,
do.
don't even
Green
argue
New
about it.
Deal
Doesn't-
will pay
Because they don't know
for
what you're
itself.
talking
It's not
about. I don't
arguing,
know
it's
what you're
debating.
talking about.
You're not going to build.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't.
You
You
don't.
don't.
You
You
don't.
don't.
Green New Deal?
You're right, you're
If
right.
you think Biden is
No, I
going
don't
to be a
support
good
the
president,
Green
you don't
New
know
Deal.
what you're talking about.
Don't. Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
But isn't
I
that your
support
opinion?
the
That's the radical
Yeah.
left.
Exactly. And I have my opinion, so shut the fuck up. I
Yo,
do
chill,
know
chill,
that.
chill, 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 chill.
Whoa.
This is
I'm sensing
peaceful.
negative energy.
calls the radical Green New
It's peaceful
Deal.
movement. It's a peaceful
And he's in
movement.
an
segment.
asshole right now, yeah.
Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are going to vote early.
Some fucking people.
How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you
Oh,
prepared
this is. I want to hear
do
this.
over the next 5
You can go in full
weeks?
screen, my
Because it'll
dude.
not only
Yeah, I
be
got you.
election day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after election day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president
Cut it
will
up.
be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment,
No.
Mr. Vice President, you go first.
I want to hear
Prepared to let
this.
people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show
I didn't
up
even
and
know what he's
vote.
talking about.
You
Of
will
course.
determine
Come
the
on.
outcome of this election.
He's forgetting
Vote,
what he says
vote,
as he
vote.
says it.
If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early.
Give him time.
If
Give him
you're able
time.
to vote in person,
Give
vote
him
in
time.
person. Vote whatever way is the
He's
best
like
way
fucking
for
80.
you.
How much more time do you want?
He cannot
You
stop
guys see why I said that
from
Biden's
being
gonna
able to
Yeah, niggas fucked up. That's fucked up.
You guys see why I said if Biden wins
that will be accepted.
Bro, you
by
could
the
not
House.
get a
That
good
will
trip
be
up the
accepted
stairs
by
going
those
up to
that
the
will
White
accept
House.
it.
Bro, he's
By the
gonna
way,
die off rip,
if
bro.
in
They're
fact
gonna
he
bring a whole
says
bunch
he's
of people
not
from
sure
his
what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't
That's gonna
matter
be
because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand.
Look at his
you
eyes
have
in the
it in
camera.
your control to determine
His
what
eyeballs
this
are
country's
so
gonna look like the
black,
next
man.
4 years. Is it going to change?
That nigga look high as hell, though.
It seriously looks like he's straining to remember what he's about to say.
His eyes are so wide in the cap.
When I listened to Joe
Yeah, he need to go
talking
to
about
bed.
a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign.
Hello?
They started from
What's
the
up,
day
baby?
I won and even before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our first lady, they were
Yo,
a
Cup, chill.
disaster. They were a disgrace to our
Let's get another
country,
one.
and we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on
Yeah,
tape.
what side
We've
are you
got
on?
it all. And by the way,
We
you
got
gave
Wolf
the
Jack
idea for
too.
the
Are
Logan
you the
Act against
Republicans
General
or
Flynn.
like
You
you
better
the
take a look at that because we caught
libertarians?
you in a
I'm gonna
sense.
say
And
one for Jack.
President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition.
Yo, Rarity, what side
As
are you
far
on?
as the ballots are concerned, it's
What?
a disaster.
What side are you on?
A
What does that mean?
solicited ballot.
Oh my
Republicans or
Oh,
They
Democrats?
send it back, you send it back. I did that.
I
If you
don't
have
know.
an unsolicited, they're sending
Biden,
millions of
Biden.
ballots all over
Yes.
the
I'm
country.
Yes.
What's his
They
name?
found some
What's
with
his
the
name?
name. Trump just happened to have the name.
Joe
Trump.
Wait,
Biden.
don't tell him what
Today in a
you
waste
think.
paper
You
basket.
two Rarity,
They're
that's
being
it?
sent all
Yeah.
over the place.
Joe
They
Biden?
sent two
Hey,
in a Democratic area. They sent out
Joe
1,000
bite me in the wrong
ballots.
spot.
Two ballots. This is going to be a
Joe
fraud
bite me.
like you've never seen. The other thing,
Joshua
it's nice
Vanquez, what
on
is going
November
on, young
3rd,
man?
You're watching and you see who won the election.
That
I
was
think
a
we're
pig,
going to do
wasn't
well
it?
because
removed
people are
him.
really
He
happy.
did.
with
It
Why
was a
would you
girl.
remove-
It was a
That
girl.
was a
what?
girl,
We
yeah.
won't
Yeah.
know. We
But
might
why
not
would
know
you
for
remove
months because
YouTube
these
Rarity?
ballots are going to be all
She's a
over.
dumbass. She
Take a
didn't
look
even
at
know.
what
She's like,
happened in
what's up?
Manhattan. Take a look at
Exactly, yo. What is
happened
she even
in
talking
New
about?
Jersey.
She's like,
Take a look
what
at
do you mean
happened in
size?
Virginia and other places.
She was
They're
just here
not
for the
losing
party.
2%,
Hell,
3%,
bro. Like,
which by the way
exactly,
is too
bro.
much in
Like,
election
come
code.
on
Oh
now.
my
Won and lost for that.
God.
Like,
They're losing
Jackson,
30 and
Jackson got to grow.
40%.
Flex, you need
It's
to
a
grow too, bro. I
fraud,
need to grow.
and it's a
That's
Yeah,
shame.
same, bro.
And can
You're
you
not older.
imagine where
No,
they
what you talking
say
about? You just
Bro,
grow.
if
you
you
have
vote
to
for
have
Joe
your
Biden,
ballot
you're
in
getting
by
no grill,
November
yo.
10th?
Alright, shit. I'm gonna have to
November
switch.
10th. That means
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Flex,
No,
flex
facts,
right now.
facts,
That's
facts.
what I'm
I'm
saying.
switching too. I'm switching too. Chill,
Right
I'm
now.
switching. I'm
We have
switching.
major states with them.
I'm switching.
You're
I'm
switching.
switching.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Bro, the lights in my room are red right now. Like, chill, chill.
Yeah, me too, me too.
Yo, look, I'm not gonna say anything. Go to my comment section on YouTube and look at the latest comment. I'm just gonna leave it. Leave it at that, bro.
Lead to fraud.
Leave
Hey,
it at
pin
that.
it, pin it, pin it, pin it.
In the last
He
midterm
said,
Alright,
I'm
but-
moving for Trump
31
just because
million
I wanted
people
to.
voted mail-in voting. That was
No,
Okay.
more
I
than
saw
a quarter of
fucking
all the
200
voters
pump by
that year cast
chicken.
their
Oh my
ballots
God.
themselves. Now that
What?
millions
The one
of
person
mail-in
playing
Oh,
Fortnite,
ballots
bro.
have gone
Oh
out.
my.
What are you going to do about it? And
That's a
are
great
you
question.
counting on the
I
Supreme
am
That's a
voting
Court,
great
for Trump
question.
just
including
because
a
I
Justice
want him to
Barrett,
fuck up
to
America.
settle
Yeah,
anything?
that was
I think we're playing and then
That
look
shit
at the
killed me,
ballots,
bro.
definitely.
That was
I
funny,
hope we
though.
Hey,
don't
bro,
need
make
them
me mod,
in
yo.
terms of the election itself.
Hey,
But
yo,
for the
make me
ballots, I
mod,
think so.
Flex.
Because
Flex,
what's
make me
happening is
mod.
incredible.
How do I do
I
that?
read today where
Make me
at
mod.
least 1% of the ballots for
Make me
Not
mod.
even on
2016
your
Click on like the
were
three
shit
dots next to my
anymore.
name.
invalidated. They take them. We don't like them.
What
We
happened?
reject them. They throw them out
Click
left
on the
or
three
right.
dots next to my name.
What
Alright,
can
good.
you do and vote?
Here, I'll come.
If you
I'll come.
if you
Solicited
if you
ballot.
make
No,
him
that's
mod, you
okay.
have to give me
Here
mod
you go and
too.
vote.
No girls
No,
get
we're
mod.
a
You go and
we're
vote.
a package
You
deal.
go and vote.
Oh my
No,
God.
this
Like
is
they
definitely
used to at the old
I'm
days.
the
People
package
used to
deal. What are you
Chris,
talking
a
about?
solicited
Yo, don't talk
ballot
to
where
my
you're
girl like that.
sending
I'll
it in,
punch
you're sending it
you.
back, you're sending
Make me
They
mad,
have
mad
mail-in,
faggot.
lots of it.
Bro
Did you
to the
see
yo. Who the
in
fuck
New
are
West
you?
Virginia, mailmen selling
Well, he
ballots.
sounds like a higher
They're
version of
being
Enzo, bro.
sold.
Am I
They're
not
being
Kip
dumped
Trap?
in rivers.
Am I
This
not
is a
Captain? He
horrible
sounds like
thing for our
a
country.
I'm the
Make me
package
mod, you
deal.
fucking bitch. Why am I being
This is
cussed
not
at?
going to end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5
This
states
is
have
not
had
bullshit,
mail-in
bro.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5,
Yo, this
including
boy's
2
tags
Republican
are
states.
presidential
And you don't
debate,
have to
Trump,
solicit the ballot.
Biden,
It's sent to
Fortnite.
you.
I'm done,
It's
yo.
sent to your home. What we're saying is,
God.
that it has to be
Make
a
me mod, you
postmark
shithead.
by the
Alright, see?
time
Nah,
election
you
day.
heard me. You
If
heard
it
my
doesn't get
feelings.
in till the
If, wait,
7th, 8th, 9th,
Yo,
God, does
10th,
Kelsey,
it
you're
Is
won't
mod.
Martin
be
Luther King?
counted.
Wait,
He's just
No
afraid
way,
of
am
counting
I
the votes.
really?
You got a
You're
huge
wrong.
package.
You're wrong.
Let-
I
no,
love
I'm
it.
Make me
going to
mod.
continue with you on
I
this.
gotta get mod too.
Chrissy's
I'm the
so
Jackson,
good.
package
Make it
deal.
happen like that.
Excuse me.
Am
Vice
I?
President Biden,
If
the
Martin
biggest
Luther King
problem,
was
in
on
fact, over the
president right
years
now,
with
would you
mail-in
guys, like,
voting
Martin
has
Luther
not
King would
been
want you to
fraud
make me mod.
historically. It has been
Like, what you wait, what you
All right, hold
guys
on,
doing?
shut up,
Wait,
shut
how-
up, shut up,
what-
shut up, shut up.
ballots are thrown out
I'm not mad.
because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they
can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake
Look at
and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
it's
right.
been
So now,
Yeah, I got you.
Wait a minute, gentlemen. And the final question is: in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited.
Make
currently
me
by law,
mod
8
my
states,
G because
from
my
even
GF
beginning to
is Kelsey.
process
Who is that?
ballots,
That's
even take them
fucking,
out of the envelopes and
Jack.
flatten them until election day.
No,
That
it's not.
means that
He's
it's likely,
rotate.
because there's
No,
going
he's
to be a
on
huge
2 different
increase
accounts.
in
Are you
No, that is
really?
definitely not
balloting,
me.
that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
GF
months.
girlfriend.
until we
Well,
find
yeah, I
out
know
who
what that fucking means,
the new
but-
president is. So first for you, sir,
Please,
finally
I'm
for the
fighting
vice
with
president.
you
I hope
for
neither of you will
violence. I
interrupt
was
the
6
other.
years.
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period,
shit, I'm in a
not to
creative
engage in
mode
any
now.
civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown
Are
out.
you guys
They
just,
weren't
like,
allowed
not
to
getting
watch.
on
You know why?
anymore?
Because bad
Hey,
things
that
happen in
boy-
Philadelphia. Bad things.
What
And
happened?
I am
Flex
urging,
ugly
I
as
am
hell,
urging my people. I
yo.
hope it's going to be a fair
I'm
election.
dead
Are you
ass
guys
too.
not getting on?
What do you mean getting on?
100%
I'm
Flex,
playing
you have
with
no
myself
eyebrows.
right now.
Tens of
Oh,
thousands
no,
Flex, show us
we-
your eyebrows in
Oh,
camera.
Oh, you're playing with yourself?
And
That's
that's
kinda
not what I
weird.
meant.
I mean, I'm down too if you want.
Are
Okay.
your people to take
Wait,
this
wait, wait,
meeting?
wait, wait.
That's not what I
You're
meant.
sending out
Exactly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Hey, we got
They're
the
not
big
equipped
wood
to-
off finna join
These
us,
people
huh?
aren't equipped to handle it. Number one.
Who?
Number two.
Oh,
they
that's
cheat.
Blake Woodall.
He
Oh,
knows about
Blake.
Trump,
They
yo. He
found
knows about
ballots
Trump,
in
yo.
a
He'll
waste
tell y'all.
paper basket.
He's a
3
big
days
Trump
ago,
supporter, right?
and they all had the name military ballots. They were
Yeah, be
military.
quiet, be quiet.
They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice
Damn.
President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted?
Heavily.
And will you pledge
So-
not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. And
Fuck
here's the
no.
deal. You count the ballots, as you pointed out.
I like
Some
hell.
of these ballots in some states
God.
can't even be opened until election day.
Surprised he's not talking
And
about
Yo,
those
shut the
stuff.
fuck
thousands of
up.
ballots
Shut
gonna
up,
take
shut up,
time
please.
to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect.
Because they're agreeing not to
And
cheat.
that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them?
He can't
somehow
even
not
speak.
fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest.
Bro, Biden
No
ain't
one
know
has
what he's
established
saying,
at
bro.
all that there is
He's like,
fraud related to mail-in ballots.
Bro, he said he was
Somehow
running
it's a
for the
fraudulent
Senate.
process.
Like,
It's already
what?
been established.
It's-
Look at Marilyn Maloney.
Next thing,
They
who's
have
mayor? No, the only thing he's
Look at
running is
Marilyn
from the
Monroe.
cops.
They have
Like,
no idea what
Vice
happened.
President
sure.
Biden, go ahead.
He has no
He's
idea
running
what
Hey,
he's talking
wait, hold
about.
on, hold on.
Here's the
Y'all
deal.
heard that?
The fact is, I
Uh,
will accept it, and he will
Joe
too. You
Biden
know
was
why?
saying
Because
Trump was on drugs.
once the
Trump was
winner
like,
is
I'll do a
declared
drug test
after
right now.
all the ballots
And
are
Trump was
counted,
like,
all the
Biden, you
votes
do
are
a drug
counted,
test. And
that'll be
Biden
the
said
end of
no
it.
to it.
That'll be the end of it. And it
I just think
Oh,
it's
look at
old
this,
man
look at
then.
not
this.
me.
Joe Biden's
Vote
son
the
got
outcome.
kicked out of the
And I'll
military
be a
for
president,
heroin.
not just for the
Dang,
Democrats.
poor
I'll be a
dude.
president
What's
for
he call it?
Democrats and
What's he call it?
Republicans. And this guy,
I want
if
to
he
say,
You
gets
know,
honest
ballot
like father,
count.
like son,
Will
you
you
know?
say that's the end
Trump
of it?
is like,
This is the
name my
end of
law
this
enforcement
debate.
now.
Right
Name my
now,
law
Joe
enforcement
Biden
now.
will be
It's
in jail
To
for
be
like
heroin.
Biden was like,
continued as
we
in
got
more
time for that.
debates
We
as
just
we
got
go
time for
on.
that.
Yo,
President
passive,
Trump,
remove somebody that's not
Vice
talking.
President
We're
Biden, it's
Max
been an
trying to get
interesting
somebody
hour
in
and
here.
a half.
Jackson.
I want to
All
thank
right.
you both for participating.
Caper.
Who are you trying to get
In
in
the first of
here?
3
Yeah,
debates,
Jackson, I'm finna put that on
Yeah,
my,
one of the
Nah, he knows what he's
things
talking
that
about.
Reserve
Wait,
University
hold on, hold on, hold on. Y'all be
and the
quiet.
Cleveland Clinic
Look what I
hosting
sent you.
this event, the next debate, sponsored by the
Caper's
Commission on
talking.
Presidential
Is
Debates,
Caper talking?
will be
Hey,
one
All right.
week from
Who's
tomorrow,
not talking?
October
Who's not
7th, at
talking?
the University of Utah
Hey,
You're
in
talking.
I'm
Salt
here.
Lake City. The
All
two
right,
vice
Dyer.
presidential nominees,
Dior isn't
President
talking.
Mike Pence and
Dior.
Senator Kamala
Alright, get
Harris,
Dior out of here.
will
Because this
debate
person
at
knows
9
about
p.m. Eastern
politics.
that
That's why I want
night.
to
We
get him
hope
in.
you watch.
All right.
Do they though?
Until
Do they
then,
know
thank
about
you.
politics in the right way, or are they
Until-
liberal?
I didn't fucking interview him, though, yeah.
He's a liberal, bro. Like, if you're a liberal,
Clearly,
just like
this was
leave.
the most
I just think
chaotic
it sounded
presidential
smart, bro.
debate
I
I've
invited him.
ever seen, and
All right,
I
if he
Wait, it's
doesn't know,
over?
we're
most
adding
of you,
Dior
if not
back.
all of you, have ever
It's
seen
over?
most chaotic
Everybody,
presidential
Wait,
everybody,
is
hop in
it?
here.
and
Let's
will
do a big
certainly
zoom.
raise
Wait,
a
it's
lot
over.
of questions,
Yeah, it's
raising
over.
a
It's
lot of
over.
questions
Wait, who won?
about the future picture of
It's
Nah,
a
it is
debate.
not.
Like,
Yeah, it's just a
Oh my
debate.
god,
It
he
was-
says he won.
it was not a 1v1. Like,
This is the
I
last
just
presidential debate.
it's
What's he call it?
unavailable. Just cut it off.
Wait.
Wait, Ed.
Came in
Ed.
hard with that peace control.
Add
Wait,
Dior
question.
back.
He bobbed me.
Dior.
Yo, they should just yo
Add
deadass.
Dior back. Add Dior back.
They should just settle this shit in the 1v1 on Russ. Honestly,
I got a question.
what's your question?
If Martin Luther King was president right now, would you guys vote for him?
No.
Why?
No.
He'd be fucking old if he was president
Exactly.
right now.
First of all, he'd be like,
No, not
He's
like
like
not
modern.
like,
He means like modern day king, like
yeah,
back in
like
his prime.
modern-
I mean, it would be different. You really can't talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because-
that was a different
like,
time. It's not the same
Yeah,
time.
you can't.
Yeah,
can't
it
really.
was so.
But like, would you guys vote for him back then?
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean, you
fucking
can't
different
talk
time.
about
Yeah.
that. You don't know. Like
I don't know who's
Martin
doing-
Luther King might say something completely different, like
Facts.
with
He's gonna be
anybody
talking-
other opinion.
He's
like,
gonna go up and be like, "I have a dream."
No,
That
You
cause
don't
look,
know
that
who-
boy,
you don't know
yo,
who
if
the
Martin
next
Luther King was alive right now, he would fucking turn Hillary Clinton into a good person. Yo, word to God.
no, check me out.
He
'Cause
would.
But wait,
Um,
but do you guys wait, hold on. Do you guys like Martin Luther King for what he did?
I mean,
Nah,
I like
bro.
Abraham Lincoln.
because
What you
Martin
think-
Luther King, like he was for racial injustice.
I mean-
if he was
I
born
mean, he
in this,
really didn't get none of his points across though. He got killed before he started. Like,
Yeah,
all
but
his
I mean, but like
speeches.
what he was trying to do. Do you guys support it?
Yeah, I
Oh.
mean, some of his speeches were pretty good.
He's doing
He's doing better than
Yes.
what they're doing now. He
yeah,
actually
his
had a peaceful
wordplay,
protest.
his wordplay was like
I know.
crazy.
Hey, add
Wait, what you call it?
Dyer.
Isn't it 10 right now? Right?
Look,
Dior,
like
Dyer.
basically
I
him
got
and his
wait,
father.
No,
Dyer-
that kid won't join. I kicked him.
I'm
Him
gonna
and his
invite
father
her.
just trying to
I got
stop
it.
on racial injustice. Do you guys like
There's
believe in that stuff?
Bro, who trying to wonder on for?
all right.
Everybody
I'm
vote.
gonna
I
put
know
my
about
I am a
I'ma put my-
politician now. I'm not 1v1 to no one.
I'm gonna put my epic in the chat so we can all play.
We got 10 people. Everybody hop on Fortnite. Let's do a big
Hold
we
on,
all
hold
finna
on.
Yeah,
play
we're
some
gonna-
horse.
Hey, are y'all all
Oh shit! Fucking,
fuck.
oh fuck.
Left
y'all
or
all
right? What's
PC?
good?
Everybody's PC.
Ah, they're gonna say left or right.
Everybody's
Kenny?
PC.
Mobile.
I'm
Yeah, there's
PC.
like 2 mobiles in there.
All right,
I'm on I play on mobile, my too. fridge.
all right. Well, if you're mobile,
You got a new
Yeah, I
Xbox. Hey.
y'all are not gonna be able to add me because you have to
Put on
copy
my
and paste my
Keurig.
name.
Yo, I could. No, I'm not doing that.
You
shit.
shouldn't have
All
my
right, look,
epic
look.
name.
Just
no,
copy
my,
and paste my name, then put it in Fortnite.
Put it
Xbox is
in.
fast. If you play on Xbox, then you're dumb.
Yo, you guys want to get your point across for end the stream?
No.
Fuck Biden.
Hold on.
No
I'll send you-
way. Jackson.
Yo,
You
let's
know
get.
Huey Town?
Yeah.
Like how good the baseball team was?
Yeah.
Their coach died.
Oh,
Dude,
Ow.
in his career, they had 893 wins.
All right, guys, this
I
has
didn't
been
know
a
that.
Trump versus
I
Biden.
guess age.
Yo, can you
It
shut the
doesn't
fuck
really
up? Can you
say.
shut up? Can you shut up?
Yo, fuck your stream, Flex.
All right, guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the live stream. This has been a peaceful.
It was nice.
Just end it. Just end
Can
it.
you
bro.
shut the fuck up? I'm trying to be professional.
He
bro.
was a biological
Bro,
teacher
you're
and
trying
a
to be
baseball
professional.
coach.
You only got 3 viewers.
Exactly.
start,
Like you're
it's a
talking to
start.
people in here, yo.
Well, they
Like
will be
3
here.
kids in this chat right now.
They're
in
gonna watch it
Discord
when
are
I'm done.
in
And when
your
I
view.
finish, they're gonna watch it tomorrow. Like, chill.
No, because they probably already left.
No, but tomorrow new people
Who's
will
gonna
come.
watch you when they're watching CNN 10 with 1 million fucking viewers right now?
CNN's
Who's
fake news. You
talking?
said it.
Like I can't hear
It
anything.
is.
I'll come back to lobby in a second.
Yo,
I think someone muted me.
I think
Yo,
No, I didn't mute. We can hear you, Blake.
I think what
Yeah,
the
we
protest did for us, the debate, it got us excited for a new president because we're moving in the right direction. The future.
Yo, shut up.
I
You
am.
do not know what you're talking about, Flex.
Jackson.
And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to
Wait,
leave a
Flex
like,
is in here?
subscribe if you're
Jackson.
new. It's been your boy Flex
Yeah.
Daddy Dynamite. You still
Jackson,
fucked out.
Kelsey likes Blake instead of you.
Hell,
What?
Your mans don't be a
Team
man.
Biden.
She's still a
Yo,
girl.
Team
Come
Biden.
on,
Team
get on.
Biden. Team Biden. Let's
Shut
go.
up. Shut up.
Flex, you literally said